Why no news is good news for Xavier Johnson and Malik Renew's injuries.
Watford 3 on the way. Oh!
Hello guys, and thank you once again for joining me on this episode of Indiana Sports Connection. I am your residential anchor, Aaron. Thank you so much for being here and being part of this Indiana Hoosiers and Colts community on here. We talk about sports, we talk about the Hoosiers. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about a few of the comments that Mike Woodson made during his press conference today that I found very alarming. We'll talk about those comments. We'll talk about what he said about the injuries and why this article that came out, why I believe it's good news for the Hoosiers with what they've reported so far. And we're going to get into a little bit briefly of Penn State's stats and talk a little bit. I was watching the Penn State Rutgers game, which was ugly game to watch the other night, but that is who the Hoosiers will be playing tomorrow at noon at Assembly Hall. Huge game, a must-win game. If they want to get into the tournament and have any chance, they have to beat Penn State tomorrow night, no matter who is out there on the court. But first, before we get into all that, if this is your first time here, welcome. This is Indiana Sports Connection, a Hoosiers community and Colts community. Subscribe down below and leave a comment down below, and we have a great discussion about Indiana basketball. And that's all I am, is a very passionate fan, and that's why I started this channel. But we'll talk now about what Mike Woodson said in his press conference today. So if we pull this article up, I just want to say here, IU head coach Mike Woodson provided updates on the pair during a media availability over Zoom on Friday. He said, Renew is dealing with an ankle injury and Johnson has an elbow injury. Right now, we're still evaluating them. I'll know more today when we get to practice, Woodson said. I spoke to Tim this morning. At this point, I don't really know. It was X's elbow and Malik's ankle. They didn't do anything yesterday, so we'll see if they're on the floor to do something today. We'll see. That is hugely great news for Indiana, because we know one thing. If Xavier Johnson had a broken arm or a chipped elbow or anything that would be revealed on an MRI or something like that, and same for Malik Renew, some people were saying maybe it was an ACL or something by the way he fell. We know now that it is not those things. They've been evaluated for those things. They would have reported on that and have known immediately if that was an ACL for Renew or something. I mean, what I was really holding my breath about with Renew was if it was a foot injury. That's what I thought it could be, because those can be the hardest injuries to come back from. Xavier Johnson had that, but more we know, like Pat Graham, who really never saw his full potential, that was a Mr. Basketball in Indiana, that just dealt with foot injury after foot injury. When you're a basketball player, your feet are super important. You're always on your feet. You're always jumping and taking a lot of load impact onto your feet. So foot injuries can be really hard to recover from. So that was a huge relief for me that it wasn't a foot. If it's a rolled ankle, Renew, if he can come back shortly. And I'm going to tell you, there's a way that this could help Indiana out. Playing without Xavier Johnson and Renew, if they can win this game at Penn State, it could be huge for them going forward. Just being able to get some other guys out there that Woodson will trust more on the court. And that is huge for this team. So let's pull up the stats for Penn State. We got Penn State tomorrow at noon, and we got the stats right here. These are just all the main player stats. Clary, the guard, averaging 18.4 points a game. Baldwin Jr., the guard, averaging 13.2. Wahab, averaging 9.2. Ken Jr. averaging 7.9. So two guards do their main amount of scoring. Perimeter defense in this game is going to be huge. They have got to have, I mean, Cups, Galloway, the guards are going to have to play tough defense on the perimeter, because that's where Penn State is going to want to be out. I think we can dominate them in the paint, but the key is we got to just stop their guards from driving and force them into bad decisions. That's going to be super critical in this game. I watched the Penn State Rutgers game the other night. I'm going to tell you, we think Indiana plays some ugly games. That was an ugly game. I think it was like 16-15 with about 3 minutes left in the first half. It was a little bit of a tough sit through. So one guy for Penn State Khalib was having kind of a big night against Rutgers for him. So that's the guy. These two guards are the ones that we're really going to have to shut down against Penn State. We can get this victory tomorrow because we cannot lose a game to Penn State, especially not this team. Because Micah Shrewsbury, he coached there last year when they were really hot. If you remember, he went to Notre Dame. He's at Notre Dame now, so we don't have to deal with them. They had really, really great outside shooters, and also his son went with him to Notre Dame. That was another good player for them. So a totally different Penn State team, a Penn State team that's kind of in flux a little bit, like in transition, but we have to win this game because we saw a Rutgers team earlier that was kind of in flux, played an ugly game against Indiana, and we lost that game on the road. We got to get this one. It is super critical. Now, let's talk a little bit about this comment that Mike Woodson made. Let's play that clip right here.
Right now, I think you guys are 344th out of 351 teams and 3-point attempts per game. When you were assembling this roster, is this the type of offense that you envision having?
Well, if you haven't had your point guard, who is probably your best pick and roll guy, it's kind of hard to run pick and rolls and get threes. The only way we get threes now is we post our guys get double, we kick it out, or we get early transition, or we advance the ball up the floor. I don't look at that. You guys, you look at the 3-point shots. We've had a lot of attempts, probably not as many as most of the college teams. Why not make the shots that we've had? That would help, to me, in terms of our shooting percentage. I mean, I don't know what we're shooting right now in the Big Ten. It's not great, and when I look at the guys that are shooting them for us, everybody's down. Gallo's down from last year. I mean, Gallo shot it, I thought, extremely well for us last year. He's not shooting it that well this year. Mac has had his struggles. And you can go on and on. I mean, we just, our bigs are shooting better threes than our perimeter guys. And it shouldn't be that way. So we just got to keep working the threes that we get. We got to knock them down. You can't play Illinois and go 0 for 9. That's 9 opportunities. You came up dry.
Those comments he made about 3-point shooting and all that stuff about the pick and roll and everything like that, that's an NBA game. The pick and roll game, if you're familiar with the NBA, and I don't watch a ton of the NBA, but in the NBA, if you have a Kobe Shaq combination, or if you have elite outside players combined with a really elite big man, pick and roll is almost unstoppable. If you have a player like Jokic, who's 7 foot tall, when he plays in the pick and roll with Jamal Murray, those are NBA professional basketball players. They can execute that play almost like it's a science. When they roll to the basket, they're making those reads over and over and over again, and they're just pros at it. They're pros. That's why they're so good at that. In college basketball, you have to be more instrumental with like how guys develop and how guys shoot, and making sure that guys are getting their legs into the shot, and that they're gripping the ball the right way, and that they're doing all of these little things the right way, because they're going from a high school level to a pro level. It's just a lot different. So I like to add some nostalgia onto the show, but watch this clip of Bob Knight. Everything I've learned about basketball, I learned from Bob Knight. And he famously said, and I don't want to throw Woody under the bus, and I don't think I'm one of these people, but Bob Knight famously said, basketball is a game that's watched by millions and understood by few. And when I listen to somebody only really coached in the NBA, he's only coached in the NBA. He doesn't understand the development of young players and how you have to be instrumental in that development. Let's roll this clip of Bob Knight. And this is how the general got it done right here.
If a team is going to take the effort, make the effort to get shots, then let's make damn sure we're getting good shots. Shot selection, absolute #1 in importance in offensive development. All right, there are 3 things that we really pay attention to in shooting. The first of all is leg lift. We want strong leg lift with our shooters. We want them to get their legs into the shot because we think everything begins with the legs. The second thing we want with our shooters is full extension of the shooting arm and the hand following through in such a way as to have the finger spread as though we're trying to put the hand in the basket right after the basketball. The third thing we constantly check with our shooter is that the eye remains fixed to the basket. We don't want the shooter following the flight of the ball after he has released it. Now, there are a lot of things that you can do with the technique of shooting. I just want to go through those 3 points before we show some things that we do with our players in terms of setting up the kind of shot situation that they're going to have in practice.
All right, so you can see the difference. Everything he's saying, everything he's doing about these things is really detail-oriented. Now, I know he's making a video about how he coaches and all that stuff, so yeah, it's going to be more detail-oriented, I guess. But I've never heard Mike Woodson really articulate the game in the way that I want it to be broken down. I'm just a lay person that watches the game and I try to study it as much as possible. I'm going to tell you one great resource. Brian Tonsoni on that assembly call, the Back Home Network. You can find a video on there. Check out this video. It's called Nail Slot Rim. I've watched this video about 10 times, really trying to understand and apply it to watching the guys on the court, but understanding the nail slot rim defense. You watch this video, and this is what us as Hoosier fans, maybe that plagues us. We maybe know too much about basketball. We're just so into it. I would like to see more of a detail-oriented approach to shooting, making sure the guys got leg lift, make sure their eyes aren't following the ball, make sure they're doing all, and make sure they're really good at catching the ball or doing those drills off of a chair so that you're really good at catching the ball here and being able to be ready to shoot the ball from distance when you catch it. Thank you so much for joining me today. And until next time, stay classy out there, Hoosier fans.